Thursday Night Football got us kicked off. Thanks for the wave there. We needed it. Swagoo's not here. We got to get it from
Somebody had to do it. Yeah.
Thank you for doing it. I was going to do it, but it would look bad. All right, first quarter is where we pick it up. The Commanders are with the ball here, and Jaden Daniels connects with Austin Eckler. He gains 34 on the play, Dan.
Yeah, this is a really nice job, and obviously a plan for Washington. Two backs on the field. You're trying to stretch the defense horizontally. It got them in a little bit of a rhythm, then Brian Robinson finds a way to punch it in.
So Commanders lead 7-0 early in this one. Let's go all the way to the fourth quarter. Eagles trailing 10-6. Jalen Hurts scrambles, just barely gets the first down. Dan, that kept the Eagles drive alive.
Yeah, it's a huge play. You're down 4, driving, and it keeps that drive alive to your point. Then they got the run game going a little bit of a wham trap downhill. It allowed them to finally have a chance at that tush push for a touchdown.
Eagles up 12-10 after a missed extra point. So, ensuing Commanders drive, fourth down. Daniels tries to run it for the first down, but he is stopped. So, a turnover on downs and a big stand-up by that Eagles defense that really has turned out to be great this season. Next Eagles possession, Hurts to Saquon Barkley. Dan, he's been on fire.
Yeah, Lane Johnson put his hand up right when he got the football, knowing it's split flow. No one's going to catch Saquon. Unbelievable run.
Very next Commanders play, Daniels looking for Noah Brown, but Reed Blankenship has other plans. He intercepts it. It's Blankenship's third pick this season and able to make that happen the next Eagles drive. Barkley takes the handoff to the house. Eagles win 26-18, and my goodness, Saquon took that one on his shoulders toward the latter part of the game. Since their bye week in week 5, the Eagles have reeled off 6 straight wins, winning by an average of 15 points per game. They've averaged just a tick under 200 yards per game on the ground, while Saquon Barkley has led the NFL with 137.8 scrimmage yards per game over that span. Don't look now, but Saquon maybe should be in that MVP conversation. RC, what impressed you most about last night's win for the Eagles?
You know what? I know I'm supposed to come on here and wax poetic about what Saquon Barkley has been doing, and he's been absolutely phenomenal. But to me, it's the young defensive stars of the Philadelphia Eagles adjusting to Vic Fangio's defense and becoming really, really good players. Think about the stops that we've seen since Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell have been on the back end of that secondary. Jalen Carter now ascending to become one of the premier interior defensive linemen in all of football. And also Nakobe Dean along with Zach Bond forming a very formidable duo at the linebacker position, and obviously Sweat and Nolan Smith off the end. There's so many players that you can now speak to by name that have made plays for this defense as this season has gone along. And we know what we're going to get from AJ and Devontae and Dallas, obviously Jalen and Saquon, but now you're having some of those marquee names play on the defensive side of the ball, all drafted by Howie Roseman, all developed by the Philadelphia Eagles, and paying dividends for this team right now.
Guys, I think it's worth taking a beat to remember at the end of last season how bad this defense looked, how poorly they were playing, missing tackles, busting coverages, and to contrast that with what we saw last night, what we've been seeing now for several weeks. In fact, over the last 6 weeks, this defense is holding opposing offenses to less than 4 yards per play, which is the best in the NFL. And I think people thought, well, it's about the opponents. They had the Bengals in there, but mostly inferior offenses. And I think we saw last night, no, this is not just about the quality of the opponents. It's about the play of all of the young stars that Ryan just mentioned. Something that struck me too, watching them guys last night, is just how well coached they look. And this is a credit to Vic Fangio. This Commanders offense gives you a lot to look at. And the way, in response particularly to motion, they were passing off responsibilities, communicating in their zone coverage. It's just really, really impressive coaching job from Vic Fangio.
Watching last night, I forgot how great of executive Howie Roseman is. And you could put him at the very top of the list for executive of the year. If you go back to the 2022 Super Bowl and just think of some of the people that they have acquired on that roster since that moment, they're all big-time players. I mean, obviously Saquon, Mekhi Becton starting at guard for them. Jalen Carter, one of the best defensive tackles in ball. Zach Bond, one of the best inside linebackers in ball. Nolan Smith gets a sack basically every game. Quinyon Mitchell's become a shutdown corner. It certainly feels like. Cooper DeJean somehow has become one of the better nickels. Guys, that doesn't even include in 2022, they also acquired Jordan Davis in the draft, Cam Jurgens in the draft, Nakobe Dean in the draft, and they traded for A.J. Brown. I mean, that was my thing watching last night. I feel like I sometimes forget how loaded of a football team this is roster-wise. We've seen the depth be challenged this year, and Howie Roseman's got to be at the top of the list or very near to Executive of the Year. This football team's fantastic talent-wise.
And also, to Mina's point, though, they did add Cooper, you add Quinion, and obviously Saquon is huge for the offensive side of the football. But a lot of these players were here last year, and this was a different football team. You have to give credit to Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio for the way that they've coached on both sides of the football.
Okay, last night is not the only marquee matchup of this weekend. It's a great weekend on the NFL slate. How about the undefeated Chiefs heading to Buffalo on Sunday? The Bills' defense ranks top 10 in the NFL in both pressures and pass rush wins, while forcing the second most turnovers in the league. The unit, however, has its hands full this week against Patrick Mahomes, who has produced the fourth highest QBR when pressured this season. That Bills' defense has been dealing with injuries, too. They find a way to step up no matter what. Dan, how do you see the Chiefs trying to game plan for the Bills' D?
Yeah, multiple tight ends. We talk a lot about DeAndre Hopkins and his addition and Patrick Mahomes. This is an offense that lives in 12 personnel. They use it top 5 in the NFL. They run the football out of it. They can throw the football out of it. So they're using it a ton. And then Buffalo, how are they going to not match, because we know how Buffalo is going to match, but how are they going to handle it? Is it going to be Hopkins down in the red zone? How do they match up in that regard? Is it going to be a Travis Kelce on the perimeter? The touches for players like Mecole Hardman that they'll get out of it. Noah Gray's become a really big part of their pass game. They'll take shots down the field with Xavier Worthy out of it. Buffalo is going to play 5 defensive backs. They're going to obviously have Taron Johnson on the field. Just how they play, how they match up, how they are able to handle both the run and the pass game out of that with that nickel defense, those 5 defensive backs on the field, that's going to go a long way to determining how well they play to keep them in this football game.
Taron Johnson is one of the best run-defending nickels in the entire NFL. Yep. Travis Kelce outweighs him by 50, 60 pounds, maybe. I like him in coverage in this one, but to Dan's point, it's that mismatch on the ground when the Chiefs are in those multiple tight end sets and run out of them versus this Bills nickel defense that concerns me. If they can get stops on early downs, however, I do believe they match up well with them on 3rd and long, which is, by the way, where Patrick Mahomes has mostly been producing this year, on 3rd and long and 3rd down, period. And in that, when it gets to that, that's when you see, okay, there's an opportunity for Greg Rousseau and these edge rushers to tee off on the Chiefs' offensive tackles. But you got to get to 3rd down, and they're going to have to stop the run to do so.
Mina, you led me right to where I want to go. I think that's going to be the critical down in this game. And I know people at home are like, of course, RC, it's important how you play on 3rd down because it gives you a new set of downs. But we saw what happened at the left tackle position versus the Denver Broncos last week. How will Sean McDermott scheme up opportunities for advantageous one-on-ones or free rushes from that side of the football field? Will you add a backer to the rush? Will you put Taron Johnson in some of those rushes? And I also think how you play Travis Kelce on early downs is going to be extremely important. We've seen him get involved in the game in the first quarter, in the second quarter, getting the football out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. How do you double him or how do you play him, which allows you to now focus on DeAndre Hopkins, especially on those 3rd down and got to have it sequences?